or the woman in the mirror. Right. You know, and it's such a beautiful song. It's such a great reminder that it's not always out there. We can't always wait for other people to do it. And and so we are closing up our conversation about relationships. And this song is as true in our personal relationships as it is in the world. It has to start with us. And one of the things that we have a tendency to do is to throw stones at those people who aren't doing it right. Right? And unfortunately, that also includes our family members and sometimes our most close people in our lives, doesn't it? Our partners, our spouses, and so as we close up this topic on relationships, it's just really extraordinary how over and over and over again, while we want to learn how to communicate and we want to learn how to be with people in a healthy, emotionally intelligent way, what's so extraordinary is that over and over and over and over and over again, where does it start? Right? With us. We have had this conversation also in our Wednesday nights, our beautiful Wednesday night meditation and metaphysics, and the conversation doesn't go very far. It doesn't go more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, before once again we're confronted with, but wait, it starts with me. It starts with my thoughts, my feelings, my way in which I communicate, all the things that we talked about last week. So I want to dive just a little bit deeper in this last little bit, in this last topic today, into this idea that it's not about throwing stones out there. It is actually about paying attention to what's going on in here. Now, as Karen and I were talking about this talk, and I was preparing it, I decided that I was simply going to read you an entire chapter. And I thought, well, that'll be boring. But I did actually just want to read the entire chapter for you from creating a spiritual relationship, and it is entitled "The Fifth Spiritual Law: Mirroring." What we don't like about our partner reflects back to us what we don't like and can't accept about ourselves. So I'm only going to read a part of the chapter for you. I won't read the whole chapter. If we are trying to run away from ourselves, the last place we want to try and hide is in a relationship. The purpose of an intimate relationship is to help us to learn to face our own fears, judgments, doubts, and insecurities. While we may be successful in hiding our dark side from our conscious awareness while living alone, it is almost impossible to do so in an intimate relationship. Moreover, there is absolutely no chance we can hide our doubts and fears when we decide to live with someone. Living with someone is like being in a pressure cooker. There's no cooking el dente, no slow sautéing here. We're going to get cooked all the way through, whether we like it or not. Yes, that would be true. When our fears and doubts are triggered by our partner, as they will in any intimate relationship, we don't want to face them directly. We don't want to say, oh, here is my insecurity coming up for me to look at. We blame our partner for how we are feeling. I'm feeling insecure because you're not being nice to me. But what if the insecurity is already there and our partner has just happened to trigger it? So, why focus on the trigger when I can remove the bullets? We spend a lot of time talking about being triggered. Oh, they triggered, I'm triggered. And that's our excuse. Really, we've now moved to spiritual bypass, and our trigger, I'm triggered now, we use that as an excuse. So why focus on being triggered when I can remove the bullets? When the gun isn't loaded, nobody gets hurt, even if the trigger is pulled. The question I must ask is not who's attacking me, but rather, why do I feel attacked? Now again, over and over and over again, I feel that it's important for us to say this does not mean abusive relationships, codependent relationships, or relationships where there is a deep inequality, relationships where both partners aren't actually trying to grow through their relationship. This is when both partners are seeking to grow in a relationship, whether we call it a spiritual one or not. It does require both of us to do that work. We can do some of this work on our own, but if we are truly in an abusive, dysfunctional relationship, that is then another question. Why am I being attacked? Why am I allowing myself to be attacked? Why am I staying in a relationship that is so unhealthy for me? Do you see, it's still not about them. It's always over and over again. We have to face ourselves and ask ourselves that question. Why do I not feel good enough? And so, yeah, I want to close with this statement. Your partner is the cattle prod moving you toward the most sensitive areas of self-delusion. Wait a minute, did you sign up for that? I don't know that I signed up for that. Let me read that again. Your partner is the cattle prod moving you toward the most sensitive area of self-delusion. She or he helps you wake up by bringing old wounds and false beliefs up into your conscious attention. Your partner is not responsible for your demons, nor are you responsible for his or hers, but you are midwives to each other's growth into conscious awareness. Isn't that beautiful? You are midwives into each other's growth in conscious awareness. When such in-depth learning about ourselves is mutual in our relationship, our partnership is transformed into a spiritual pathway for self-knowledge and fulfillment. We learn from our partner what no one else could teach us. How many people are skillful at both pushing our buttons and holding us compassionately as we enter the depth of our own self-hatred. There is no better guru on the planet than our partner when we have embraced the spiritual purpose of our relationship. Amen. Oh, that wasn't my response. My response was holy mackerel. Right? And we hope that it's amen, that that's what we're up to. Right? That's what we're up to. That we're really up to allowing our relationships, and of course our intimate relationships is where we're going to see it the most, where we have the most ability to work through it in a long haul. This is also true about our friendships, about our co-worker relationships, about the relationships here in the community. When people are on a committee or they see somebody do something and they get a little wigged out, and you hurt my feelings, and you did this and you did that. It's all the same stuff. Right? And then we can go out into the larger world and we can look out at those people over there who are doing that thing, and we can do all of the same projections and assumptions that we do in our own primary relationships. And so do you see, our primary relationship becomes the crucible not only for self-awareness, but then for the opportunity to learn and grow, to begin to really see, when are we projecting? When are we triggered? When are we having an opportunity to practice these spiritual tools that we have learned? Sometimes we're practicing acceptance, deep and compassionate acceptance. Other times we're practicing speaking up. Sometimes we're practicing self-awareness. Other times we're practicing asking for what we need and want. Do you see, all of that is available to us when we are really willing to do our own deep spiritual work. But I'm going to suggest that that's actually not quite enough. That the additional piece in there that we need to talk about is the notion that while we are all one, we're actually different. So I grew up on the East Coast, European. I love savory foods. The savory, the better. I have never been with a Southern girl before who loves sweet fried foods. Don't you want to eat what I want to eat? Why do you always pick Southern food? I don't think you love me very much. I also, my beloved likes, she likes, shall we say, strong movies that will fall over the edge for me. Me, I'm the Pixar, Disney, Hallmark. But we've learned to know each other, right? And she'll say, "Oh no, this is not a movie you're going to want to watch with me. I'll watch it on my own. When you're teaching class or something like that, I will protect you from that movie." Thank you. Do you see, the other side of projections and assumptions is actually the fact that the truth is we're different, and we are going to actually have conflict with the people that we are in relationship with. I want to go to the wine bar, and she wants to go down to the barbecue. And then we have to negotiate. We have to figure that out. And and I think one of the places that we have a pitfall in our relationships is that we demand for people to like and dislike the same things that we do. And we take it personally when they don't. And being able to see, no, actually, you're different. And this isn't just likes and dislikes. This begins to show up in the way that people think. Right? We do here at CSLDallas, we do the HBDI with Tom Baldry. If you haven't had a chance to do it, it's all about thinking styles. Are you a conceptual person, a relationship person? Right? And then you have audio, visual, and kinesthetic people. Then you have people who want to be out and people who want to be quiet. And then you have introvert and extrovert. And the next thing you know, you have a mess, right? Because it's like, I don't get you at all. Only because we're not listening. Because we're not seeking to know each other. To be known by each other. You see, there's a whole nother piece there that says conflict really is, on the one hand, it's about our likes and dislikes, which we actually have to negotiate. But on the other hand, our conflicts are actually about the way in which we show up in the world differently. And even more importantly than that, I think, our conflict is about conflicting values. The things that are important to us. Some things for us are non-negotiable, and for our partner, they're like, right? Or it's really important for us to show up on time, and another person, it's really important for them to be spontaneous. These are not character flaws. This is the first place it's the first place I was taught to go. I was raised that unless you didn't behave in the certain acceptable way that was acceptable to my family, basically to my father, that it was not okay. Right? This is the way you do it. And anything outside of that is actually unacceptable. And so there were values that were taught, passed on, that showed up as behaviors. And do you see what we do then is we get together with people who have very different backgrounds, very different experiences, very different ideas about the world. And their values show up as different behaviors. So this is where the listening part comes in, right? Last week we talked a lot about communication and speaking and owning. This is where the listening part comes in with each other, is to really begin to reflect on what is important. What is trying to be said that's important here? What does this person value? What do I value? Do you see, if I'm projecting it onto somebody else, I'm not paying attention to this is actually my value. And you may not. I may have to ask you, would you value it with me? Or would you put up with the fact that I value it? But to begin to really explore and to know with each other what's actually important. And do you see, this is different than likes and dislikes and opinions and, where we're going to go to the movies or where we're going to go to eat. This is about what moves us forward in our lives, and the things that we would act on, and the things that we would that move us, whether it's through work or service or hanging out with our friends, the things that are important to us. I grew up in Pennsylvania, where the Amish live, out in the Lancaster County, and we used to go out there and we would get the most amazing white sweet corn in the world in the summer. But we would see them on their horse and buggies, and they were somewhat present in the peripheral of my childhood. And I remember stories in our newspapers about people being shunned. Do you know what shunning is? Shunning is the pretense that somebody doesn't exist because they've done something outside of the values of the community. And it is like children who don't receive care, who don't receive physical nourishment, physical touch, eye-to-eye contact with parents. These children do not thrive, and they can die. And this is what happens when people are shunned. If they don't find a mirror to look into, they wither, and they truly can die. And so while we have to look in our own mirror, there's also something really, really powerful about seeing another human being. To not shun their likes and dislikes, to not shun their values, to not, I don't know why that's important. I think this over here is important, right? We pass it off as if it doesn't matter. It's like, oh yeah, well, we'll just, go on to the next thing. But do you see, we're actually disrespecting that which is important to someone else. And to be known, to be seen, is one of the greatest gifts that we can give another human being. To know their foibles, to know their flaws, to know their quirks, to know their interests, to know what matters to them. And to the best of our ability, if it doesn't impugn our own integrity, to move in a way that says, I see what you value. And because you value it, it's important to me. Do you see? This ability to know and be known, this takes us deeper than the psychological conversation of communication and boundaries and projections and assumptions. And it really allows us to move deeper into, there is a radiant, magnificent being, a child of God, who is in fact having their own life. And they get to do that. They really and truly and honestly do. And the more that we can see that in each other, we begin to see what actually calls us together. And we begin to see the precious, unique person that person is. And what a gift. Don't we want to be seen like that? How beautiful it is to say to our intimate partners or our deepest friends, I've hung around with you long enough. I know that that's important to you. I do know that. And to the best of my ability, I can give it to you. So we want to look into the mirror that our partner is for our own growth, but we actually want to see through the mirror to who they truly are. And this is where our conversation landed last Wednesday. And when we move in that place, do you see the most, what shall we say, the most appropriate response then is that we move into respect. We move into a deep respect for each other. a deep respect for each other's lives, a deep respect for the growth that another person is going through, a respect for their pain, a respect for their struggle, a respect for the fact that once again they've left the cap off the toothpaste, even though you've asked them 1,000,000 times, or whatever it is, right? Because I'm sure we've been asked something too 1,000,000 times that we haven't done yet. Do you see? And I have come to realize that respect is the cornerstone of compassion. Without respect, compassion is arrogance. It's really pity and sympathy, and well, I know, and I'm just going to, there, it's okay. Okay, that is not compassion. That's not. Compassion is deeply respectful of another person's walk, of their growth, of their struggle, not in a suffering way, but in a, you know, I've got to do this work. And one of the things that we know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, is that we cannot respect another if we aren't respecting ourselves. How can I give you that if I feel resentful that I don't have it myself? How can I have compassion for the struggle? How can I stand witness to the growth that you're doing, or whatever that is, if I am unable to respect myself, unable to respect my own needs, my own growth, my own struggle, my own need to say what's going on or to ask for what I want. Do you see, even here, over and over and over again, we come to the same place. If we want that deep seeing for another, we actually have to see ourselves. Because it's not up to that other person to give that to us. We have to give it to ourselves. We have to see ourselves, warts and all. Love it, compassionate of it, respectful of it, of our needs. That opens the door for us to absolutely be able to do that for another person, for that intimate partner. And then that extends out. It extends out to the people that are our friends, the people that we work with, the people here in the community that are so very different from us, who see things differently or act differently, and then out into the world for people who have different values, different points of view. When we can find that cornerstone of respect, then we can actually see the truth in each other. We see both the spiritual truth and the human experience that each of us is having. And over and over and over again, I want to remind us that's not a place of, I don't know how else to say it, holier than thou. Oh, I'm so spiritual, I can hold you in your pain. You know what I mean? It's not that, don't do that. No, it's that shared mutuality that says, yes, I see that in you because I've seen that in myself. And when we can open that space, do you see, we actually open the space for somebody to be that with us because we're not defended or we're not attacking, blaming, judging, shoulding on ourselves or the other person. And so this way, our relationships become spiritual practice each and every day. And I don't know about you, but mine, I'm not perfect, my relationship isn't perfect, but oh my goodness. In that practice, there's such deep love and respect that it gets better and 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 better. Why? Because I get better and better and better and better and better and better. Because the relationship is the crucible in which we grow. So I'm actually not sure where I read this recently. I've been reading so many books. And I'm not exactly sure where I read this. But to paraphrase, love is a crucible of fire. It is not a warm, gentle walk in the park. We want the warm, gentle walk in the park. We don't want the crucible of fire. And yet it is in that burns away the dross of all of that stuff that doesn't serve us anyway. So I want to close with this last little bit from this particular chapter. There's so many amazing chapters in this book. Our relationship journey comes full circle when we can see and embrace both our partner's innocence and our own. When we have moved through the shadowy world of mutual attack and projection out into the light of mutual acceptance and forgiveness, we are given custody of the Holy Grail itself, the symbol of psychic integration, power, and wholeness. Our relationship comes full circle when we can see and embrace our partner's innocence and our own. Do you see that innocence? That is the light, the love, the profound, undefended joy that is Spirit showing up as you, as me, as those people that we love. Let us pray. So as we go within today, we go into that place of innocence, that open, quiet, still place that is the divine presence as us. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, "It is only the finite that is wrought and suffered. The infinite lies stretched in smiling repose." There is that infinite power and presence that moves as life. It moves as our lives and as the lives of our beloveds. And there is that within us, within each one of us, that is that infinite, that has never been hurt, never been broken. Nothing has ever been withheld from that innocent light that we are. This is the truth. This is the truth of our being. This is the truth of each and every one of us here. This is actually the truth of all people everywhere. That light and that love is the impulse of life itself, pouring itself into each unique expression, perfect in and of itself. My life, your life, the lives of our beloveds. So this morning, let us affirm and declare that we see that innocence, that light, that joyous love in each other. That we allow the veils of projection and assumption to drop from our eyes. We allow the false beliefs and the old patterns to be released. They no longer serve us. That we simply stand naked in the sun of the reality of life as the joyous truth of our being. And because we do this, we are seen for who we are. And just as importantly, I invite you right now to draw that partner, that beloved one, that friend, right now, that family member into your own consciousness. Let them stand before your eyes in this moment. And as they stand there, let us see them. See their innocence. See the beautiful expression of life that they are. See how much they grow, how much they seek to be the best they can be. See underneath the hurts and the ways of behaving to the truth of who they are. And to know that as you see it, you help reveal it. that revelation, we bring love to the world. We cast that love out to all people everywhere, to all beings, to all life. How good it is to see in this way, to know and be known in this way, to be lifted by this truth. Allowing it to rest in our hearts and our minds, in our consciousness as we move through the rest of the celebration of this weekend. Let us simply affirm these truths together by saying, and so it is.